There is a question that often lingers in the quiet moments after a text goes unanswered, after a date that felt electric, or after someone begins to pull away. Does he miss me? But what if you're asking the wrong question? What if the real power lies not in wondering if he misses you, but in learning how to make yourself truly unforgettable? The kind of woman who stays on his mind even when you're not around. This isn't about manipulation. It's not about tricks, mind games, or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about tapping into your most authentic, magnetic self. The version of you that commands space, inspires connection, and creates absence that actually means something. Because when a man truly misses you, it's not because you begged for his attention. It's because you gave him something real and then stepped back just enough to let him feel what life is like without it. Let's talk about exactly how to become that woman, the one he remembers, the one he regrets letting go of, the one he quietly hopes will come back into view. Making someone miss you isn't about vanishing into thin air or cutting off all communication in hopes they'll come chasing after you. It's about creating a powerful emotional contrast between your presence and your absence. That contrast is what creates longing, but it only works when your presence truly means something. People don't miss silence. They miss the feeling you gave them, the energy you brought, the way you made them feel when they were around you. Think about someone in your past you couldn't stop thinking about. It wasn't just their face, their body, or even their words. It was what they made you feel. That's what stays with us. That's what we miss. And if you want a man to miss you, it starts with becoming someone whose presence evokes that kind of emotional imprint. You need to show up in his life in a way that feels light, magnetic, warm, and grounded. Not in a way that screams, "Please choose me," but in a way that says, "This is who I am, and being around me is a privilege." When you're with him, whether it's during a date, a conversation, or a moment of connection, make those moments count. Be present. Listen deeply. Share your thoughts in a way that's honest, not rehearsed. Be playful without trying to impress. The more real and emotionally available you are, the more likely you are to make an impact, because true presence is rare. Most people are distracted, trying to impress, trying to be chosen. But when you relax into who you are and connect from that place, it's unforgettable. Now, here's where the second half of the equation comes in: your absence. Your absence matters only if your presence has weight. When you create meaningful moments with someone, your absence doesn't feel like silence. It feels like space. It echoes. He notices the shift. He notices the quiet. And in that quiet, he starts to reflect. He starts to realize how it felt when you were there, how grounded he felt, how seen he was, how your energy lifted the room, how your laughter lingered even after you walked out the door. But if you're always available, always reaching out, always filling the space, there's no opportunity for that realization to happen. There's no space for him to feel the impact of your absence because he's never had a chance to miss you in the first place. That's the mistake so many make. They fear the silence, they fear the pause, so they rush in to fill it. Look, when you do that, you rob the other person of the opportunity to feel your worth in contrast to the emptiness left behind. Think of it like music. The notes are powerful, but the silence between them is what gives the song its rhythm, its emotion, its meaning. Without those pauses, it's just noise. You are the music, but you also have to allow the pauses That's what makes your presence valuable. That's what gives it texture. When a man can feel the difference between life with you and life without you, he starts to miss you. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you brought something to the table that can't be easily replaced. You don't need to chase anyone to be missed. You don't need to prove your value with constant check-ins or show how much you care by always being available. Your energy is a gift. Your time is a gift. Your emotional openness is a gift. And when you offer those things generously but selectively, the right man won't take it for granted. He'll crave more of it. The truth is, missing someone doesn't come from force. It comes from depth, from connection, from moments that felt real, and from the sudden realization that those moments are no longer there. So if you want to make a man miss you, focus less on disappearing and more on showing up powerfully, so that when you step away, there's actually something to miss. Let your presence speak so loudly that your silence echoes. Let the energy you bring into someone's life be so genuine and fulfilling that when you're not there, they feel the difference in their chest. That's how you become unforgettable. Not by withholding who you are, but by being fully you and then letting your absence do what words never could if you want to. Be missed by someone, truly missed. It can't come from a place of emotional dependency. It can't come from trying to become someone's habit, their constant, or the person who's always available to fill every silence or fix every problem. That kind of connection isn't real longing. It's reliance. And reliance fades quickly when something more stimulating or convenient shows up. What makes a man miss you isn't how often you're around, it's the emotional imprint you leave behind when you're not. An emotional imprint is a memory with feeling. It's not just a thought of you, it's a feeling of you. It's how you made him feel about himself when you were together. It's the calm in your presence, the confidence in your voice, the way you laughed freely without holding back. It's the security he felt when you looked him in the eye and actually saw him, not through the lens of what you wanted him to be, but for who he was in that moment. These are the things people miss, the things that stick. You see, when you build emotional imprints, you're not trying to make someone addicted to your attention. You're creating moments that are rooted in authenticity, depth, and emotional value. You're not overwhelming him with affection or trying to impress him every second. You're simply showing up in a way that feels rare, grounded, and genuine. And the more real you are, the more space you leave for real connection to take root. But when the dynamic becomes about constantly proving your worth, checking in for validation, or being available out of fear he'll lose interest, that's when emotional dependence starts to grow. You become more like a comfort blanket than a connection, and comfort can be easily taken for granted. Dependence may feel like love, but it often leads to burnout. It becomes exhausting for both people involved. Eventually, the relationship starts to feel more like obligation than desire. That's not what you want. That's not what gets missed. Real impact comes when you value yourself enough to step back and let your presence be felt on its own terms. It's when you trust that who you are without constant reinforcement is already enough. When you show a man that you're emotionally whole, that you're not trying to use him as a source of happiness, but instead as someone to share your joy with, that's when you become unforgettable. This doesn't mean you have to act cold or detached. In fact, it's the opposite. It means you connect deeply without clinging. You're warm without being needy. You're available for intimacy, but you don't abandon your life to chase his. You allow space, not to play games, but to respect the natural rhythm of connection, to let it breathe, to let it grow organically, rather than force it into shape. When you're not around, he should feel something missing, not because you always filled the void, but because what you brought into his life had soul. You made him think. You made him feel seen. You made him feel like the best version of himself, and that doesn't come from controlling the relationship. That comes from showing up as someone who lives fully, loves freely, and lets go when necessary, knowing that if it's real, it will echo back. A man doesn't miss a woman who loses herself for him. He misses the woman who remained herself, who brought value into his life, who made every interaction feel like a moment, not a transaction. He misses the woman who didn't need him, but chose him. That's what makes the connection meaningful. That's what makes your absence feel like something worth noticing. So stop trying to make him rely on you. Stop thinking that constant contact equals closeness. Start creating moments that matter. Be the person who listens differently, who brings presence into the room, who isn't afraid to let silence sit between messages, or let him wonder where you've gone. Because you're out there living your life, building your world, and not waiting to be chosen to feel whole. The woman who is missed is not the one who clings, but the one who gives, the one who inspires, the one who knows that emotional intimacy doesn't mean emotional dependence. It means strength, presence, and the kind of connection that stays with someone long after the moment is over. There's a common idea that if you want someone to miss you, you should pull away, go silent, or become less available. And while that might work in the short term to get someone's attention, it only leads to real longing if there's something of value being missed. Scarcity alone isn't attractive. It only works when what's scarce is worth wanting. You can't disappear from someone's life and expect them to chase after you if your presence didn't leave an impact. It's not the silence that makes a man miss you. It's the memory of what you brought into his life before you stepped away. If you didn't show him something real, something meaningful, something rare, then your absence just feels like distance. But if you gave him an experience that touched something deeper, a version of connection that felt rare, then your absence will feel like something he's suddenly missing. Many people use scarcity like a tactic. They withdraw affection. They stop replying. They wait hours to respond to texts. And while that might trigger curiosity or confusion, it doesn't build desire. It creates games, and people grow tired of games. You don't want someone to be pulled toward you because they feel off balance or manipulated. You want them to move toward you because they recognize something real in you, something that made them feel alive, inspired, grounded, understood. That's the value. That's what gives the silence meaning. Think of it like this. If something is rare but not desirable, its rarity doesn't matter. It's a one-of-a-kind item isn't valuable just because it's unique. It has to be meaningful, beautiful, or impactful in some way. You are that item. You are the experience. And it's your character, your warmth, your self-respect, your spark. That's what makes you desirable. So when you give someone a taste of that and then you take a step back, it creates an emotional gap, a gap they feel, a gap they want to close. But that only works when you're offering something that doesn't feel easily replaceable. If all your interactions are surface level, or if you're only mirroring what you think they want, then your absence won't feel like a loss. It'll feel like peace. That's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. You can't rely on strategy if you haven't first invested in substance. Pulling back should be the echo of depths, not the illusion of it. So if you're going to create space, make sure what came before it was something he'll actually notice is missing. Make sure you made him feel something. A sense of fun, a moment of understanding, a deep conversation, or even just the comfort of being with someone who doesn't need to impress but simply is. Let your personality, your light, your confidence speak for itself. And then let space reveal its value. It's also important to remember that value isn't about perfection. You don't need to be flawless to be memorable. You just need to be real. Vulnerability is valuable. Self-awareness is valuable. Kindness is valuable. Having standards, living with purpose, showing up without needing to be the center of attention. All of these are rare quality. And when a man sees them in you, he recognizes that you're not someone who's easily replaced. When you show him that you're not trying to prove yourself, but rather share yourself, he begins to appreciate the difference between someone who wants attention and someone who knows her worth. That's when scarcity becomes powerful. Because it's not about withholding, it's about choosing. Choosing when to give your time, choosing when to engage, choosing when to step back, not to punish, but to protect your own peace. A man is most drawn to a woman who knows she's valuable, with or without his validation. When you carry yourself like someone who doesn't need to be missed, but naturally is missed because of what you bring, you shift the dynamic completely. You're no longer chasing worth in his eyes. You're simply letting your worth be seen and giving him the choice to recognize it. The scarcity only increases value when it reflects something worth missing. So be the kind of woman who brings more than just attention. Bring substance, bring peace, bring a spark that feels alive, and then step back with grace, not as a test, but as a truth that you know your value and you're not afraid to let someone feel your absence because you've already made your presence unforgettable. Trying to make someone miss you is one of the quickest ways to lose your power. The truth is, if you're constantly thinking about how to create longing in someone else, you're already stepping outside of your own center. You're focused on what they're thinking, how they're feeling, and what you can do to stay on their mind instead of simply living your life in a way that naturally commands attention and admiration. Real power doesn't come from controlling someone else's emotions. It comes from living in alignment with your own. When a man truly misses you, it's not because you carefully orchestrated his emotions. It's because you gave him something real, something that lingered after the moment ended, something he didn't fully appreciate until there was space to reflect on it. That kind of longing can't be manufactured. It happens organically when you stop trying to be remembered and start focusing on being authentic. When you start focusing on who you are when no one is watching, instead of who you think he wants you to be. Most people approach relationships with a strategy. They pull back, delay replies, withhold affection, all in hopes that the other person will suddenly realize what they're missing. But here's the truth. When you make someone missing you the goal, you're no longer showing up from a place of self-respect. You're performing. And performance is exhausting, not just for you, but for the relationship. It creates pressure, confusion, and tension. And worst of all, it stops you from being real. Missing someone shouldn't be the result of tricks or manipulation. It should be the result of a meaningful connection that left a deep emotional mark. It should come from the experience of being with someone who made life feel lighter, more exciting, more grounded. Not from someone who simply disappeared to trigger a response, because the truth is, anyone can vanish. Anyone can go quiet. But not everyone can make silence feel significant. Not everyone leaves behind a feeling that lingers. The key to being missed is not trying to be unforgettable. It's being fully present when you're there and fully whole when you're not. That means when you're with him, you show up with your heart open. You listen. You laugh without holding back. You bring your unique energy without fear of judgment. And when you're not with him, you're not obsessing over how to keep his attention. You're out living your life, growing, creating, being. That contrast between the woman who gave him something meaningful and the woman who isn't waiting for his validation is what creates impact. When you live in your truth and you don't shrink or chase, you automatically set yourself apart. You become the woman who didn't try to make him miss her, but left such an impression that he couldn't help it, because he felt safe with you, seen, challenged, inspired. And suddenly, your absence isn't just a quiet space. It's a reminder of how rare you are. Let him come to that realization on his own. Let him sit with the moments you created together and feel the difference between those and the noise of everyday life. Let him notice how easy it was to talk to you, how natural it felt to laugh with you, how rare it is to meet someone who doesn't play games but also doesn't settle. When a man comes to those conclusions on his own, without you pushing, pulling, or trying to control the outcome, that's when missing you becomes powerful. The most attractive kind of woman is the one who knows she's enough, with or without someone else's attention. She doesn't disappear as a tactic. She steps back because she values peace. She doesn't withhold because she's calculating. She gives generously, then lets go when it's time. That energy is magnetic because it's not performative. It's rooted in confidence, clarity, and a deep understanding that true connection doesn't need to be forced. So don't waste your energy trying to be missed. Use that energy to become someone who naturally leaves a mark, not by trying harder, but by being more you. The right person will feel that absence, not because you pulled away on purpose, but because what you brought into their life can't be easily found elsewhere. Let the realization be his. Let the weight of your presence and the peace of your distance speak louder than anything you could say or do. That's not a strategy. That's self-worth. And nothing is more unforgettable than that.